He's the Jock.
And she's the journalist.
And you're listening to the J&J Broadcast. Welcome to your weekly Pick Six, where we review the week's hottest sports topics. I'm Shannon Green, the journalist, joined by Max Starks, the Jock. Max, how are you doing this week?
Doing well. Another week of football and one last week of baseball, so I'm happy.
Speaking of football and baseball, your former Florida Gator, Tim Tebow, is now playing baseball, as we all know, and the legend of Tim Tebow continues to grow. He hit a home run at his first at-bat in an instructional league, but still, it's a home run. Max, I'm wondering, do you think that Tim Tebow is going to generate interest, or more interest, I should say, in baseball?
I think this is a nice feel-good story of an athlete switching sports. Reminds me of a guy by the name of Michael Jordan deciding to hang up his shoes and pick up the cleats. I think it's good in general, just as a human interest story, but I don't think it really matters until he actually makes it to the majors. If he's on the majors roster, then yes, I believe this is a great story that could potentially help baseball.
Although this is Tim Tebow, so everything he does matters. If he sneezes, it's a story. If he gets a girlfriend, it's a story. Everything Tim Tebow does is a story.
Because he's on ESPN. I mean, you know, they have to support their own.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Let's jump over to the NBA. Whose homecoming do you think will be more meaningful, Dwight Howard or Dwayne Wade's?
Well, since I don't really care about anything that Dwight Howard does.
Bias.
Yeah, I don't care. Hey, I had to live through the Dwight Mayor, so I really don't care about anything Dwight Howard does anymore. So obviously I'm going to say Dwayne Wade. And I think it's very interesting because he now is joined by Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo's a great point guard. Chicago really didn't have the pieces fitting together right last year. I think Dwayne Wade's really going to bring some leadership to that team. And I'm very curious to see how they're going to mesh and if they're going to really make a competitive push in the East this season under Fred Hoiberg.
I agree with you. I think Dwayne Wade is the bigger story just because he's accomplished more than Dwight Howard has. A lot of hype has followed Dwight Howard, whereas a lot of success has followed Dwayne Wade. And him going back to Chicago, where his roots are, and getting to play for his home team with Rajon Rondo and their Derrick Rose, I think it's a great thing.
I think so, too. Let's kick it to a different topic, though. Will Smith, obviously did the movie Concussion. And I thought it was very interesting. He did an interview with Vanity Fair magazine, and he said that he thought the movie Concussion would have a bigger impact. Apparently, he's surprised that we still watch football. So what I want to know is, do you think that Will Smith is living in a little bit of a Hollywood bubble here?
I most definitely think that Will Smith is living in a Hollywood bubble because, once again, the movie didn't gross and bring the eyes that it wanted to. You can point to the fact that Will Smith was doing this character or the fact that this interest just hit too close to home to people's passions and fantasies. But it didn't have the box office success. It didn't have all the meat that you wanted to see in this movie. A lot of things were omitted for obvious reasons. So, and people love football, and the NFL has now gone to this point of trying to make sure that they made the game safer and made it better for everybody involved. So it kind of washed it away.
Yeah, I think Will Smith is overestimating everyone's conscience a little bit. I think he's forgetting that we're a heartbeat away from electing a man that ran a reality show and beauty pageants, and it could possibly get access to nuclear access codes. So I think he's overshooting, his expectations out of fans, So I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, come on, Will.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's turn back to football. Since Will Smith couldn't stop it, we're not going to stop either. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much has Tom Brady really been enjoying his time off for his suspension?
I hate to say it this way, but I think since the backup quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, got injured, he's probably enjoying it a lot more. Not that you ever root for your teammates to go down, but let's keep it all the way real. I mean, this is the NFL. You want to keep your job. The fact that he was caught sunbathing in Italy naked with his supermodel wife, Gisele Bundchen, I think he's enjoying it pretty well. That's basically some free time off. Your team is, entered the week 3-0. They're doing well even without you, and they're on their quarterback number 3 with the injury to Garoppolo. So I think he's doing all right. What about you?
I think he's enjoying it. I mean, he's playing catch with his wife in the backyard. He even called his buddy Wes Welker over, who then creeped him out with his Tom mask or Tom skin, whatever you want to call it. And like you said, he's been taking these trips. When's the last time he's actually taken a trip somewhere in September?
Yeah.
It's been almost a decade. Well, I'm sorry,
you can
almost 2
relate
decades.
to that. I'm sure you can relate to that.
I can. So I think it's a great thing, but I think he's going to come back more invigorated and more on fire, especially now this team has that 3-0 start, and where everybody was trying to predict them just to split at 2-2. So he's off to a great start, and of course the Belichick train keeps on rolling, so no issues there.
That train is going fast. And speaking of things that are going fast, this LSU job is probably going to go pretty fast too. It's a pretty hot job. Obviously Tom Herman, Jimbo Fisher are names that were kicked around. Jimbo Fisher has said that, he's going to stay at Florida State for a long time. Tom Herman said he hasn't been in contact with LSU. But, that could just be talk. Who do you think is a better fit for that job, Tom Herman or Jimbo Fisher?
Gut tells me that I would love to believe that, Tom Herman would be the better choice for that. But at the same time, it's tough for me because I really want him to stay with Houston, especially if they're going to get their Big 12 bid and just see what they could do. All this work that he's put in can actually come to fruition. Jimbo Fisher, I'm sure he's going to be great for recruiting in Louisiana. He loves Louisiana, but, his home is at FSU. FSU has the lowest turnover of head coaches in all of NCAA, so I don't know why he would leave such a cush job that is so promising for him. But, that's just my thoughts. What do you think?
I got to agree with you on that. I really don't see Jimbo leaving FSU for LSU. I'm not really sure about Tom Herman, though, either. I mean, Houston is really on the upswing. He's got $5 million guaranteed if they go to the Big 12. Although there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Expansion talks have sort of cooled off, so we don't know if they're going to go to the Big 12, but I still think he's building something really special there in Houston. I think he probably will have an eye on a Power 5 job one day, and that one day could be soon. I just don't know that it's the right time for him to leave quite yet, but I don't know, Max. I think he's in a good spot right now. Not to mention, Houston is a great city, and it pains me to say that as a Dallas girl, but but Houston is a great city to live at, and he's building something special.
I agree with you.
Well, let's keep it on college football. Obviously, we saw something very controversial happen this week. 3 Nebraska football players joined the Colin Kaepernick protest and kneeled during the national anthem. And one of the regents, Hal Dobb, actually said it was poor judgment, copycat conduct, really called him out, said it's a free country, but they don't have to play football for the university. And he told this to the newspaper, the Lincoln Journal-Star. He pretty much said that they need to get kicked off the team. Obviously they have the right to do this, so I don't think that's a question at all. But my question to you, Max, is what kind of message is that sending to those athletes when you hear a regent making those kind of comments? And let me clarify and say it was one regent. The president obviously supported the athletes, so it wasn't a groundswell of everyone in Nebraska. But that is a pretty important person to make that comment.
It bothers me to the nth degree that a person in his position would even say that. And to attack these young men for silently protesting about the injustices of minorities in this country. Who are you? Who are you, Hal Dobb, to tell them what they can and can't do? Because they took a stance. And you're only proving and substantiating those claims. Because you didn't hear everything else that went with it. The racist thoughts, the threats against them, and what they've had to endure because of that. And then you want to go take their scholarships away and tell them that there's no place for them there. And then you have the governor siding with Hal Dobb saying it's disgraceful and disrespectful. And you're not understanding the issues. And that's what bothers me, is that when you're in a position of being called the oppressor, so to speak, and you're trying to tell the oppressed how they should feel, you're completely in the wrong state of mind and in the wrong vantage point to tell somebody that. Get all your facts together before you start making and passing judgment, and then being so critical on your judgment. That's what bothers me. I wish the entire Nebraska team would not suit up like the Mizzou players did. That's what I feel would send a stronger message to Hal Dobb and to the governor for what they said. I am so happy that the university president stood behind them I'm so glad that the head coach stood behind them and allowed them to exercise their First Amendment rights, because this is trying to censor and restrict those First Amendment rights, which, if we're all equal and we're in a post-racial society, that shouldn't even been a question. It's almost like you're saying, shut up and play football. Not the right message, and it really bothered me to see that.
I mean, he pretty much could have just said, hey, boy, sit down. It's funny to me that you say that this is a free country, then you come back and say, but you should be kicked off of the team for voicing your views. I mean, this is not North Korea. You are allowed to have an opinion, even if it's not a popular opinion, and stand by it. And I agree with you. I think it would be a great show of unity on the part of the other football players to stand by their teammates and perhaps either all kneel or all take a fist or do something together, because this is now bigger than just whether or not you agree with the issues of police brutality. You have people that have been calling for these players to be lynched before the game. So I absolutely agree with your point that they should take a stand of unity.
Well, with that has been our Pick 6 broadcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Jock Journalist and also on Facebook at Jock and Journalist. Thanks, and talk to you guys next week.